You can't have more videos of your girlfriend fixing your hair than playoff wins when you've been in the league 7 years.
You can't let that happen. I'm sorry.
Seeing this clip is honestly insane. A quarterback and his fiancée sitting on a practice field in Costa Mesa in each other's laps playing with each other's hair like two sophomores behind a Chili's. And in about 3 hours, it got over 1.7 million views. Now normally, I'd tell you this is nothing. A guy got engaged in July, his fiancée came out to the camp, somebody filmed it, the internet did its thing, and next thing you know, it's viral. Hell, I even got married recently, so I know how it can be. But this is the last thing he should have been spotted doing after what we just saw in January. I mean, just read the replies. 0 playoff wins and bros canoodling out there on the field. How is this gonna help him in the playoffs? They're gonna use this meme when he loses next year. This guy has played for 6 seasons, has $250 million, and is consensus top 10 on every single quarterback list there is. And the only thing people care about is his empty playoff resume. So what the hell is going on with Justin Herbert? I gotta start here because if I skip this part, half of you guys are gonna report my video for bullying, so let's be honest. Justin Herbert is really good at football. I'm not just gonna do this bit where I pretend the guy's a complete bum. He did throw 31 touchdown passes as a rookie and broke a record that had belonged to Peyton Manning for over 2 decades. He's got 3 seasons where he threw for over 4,000 yards. And through his first 5 seasons, nobody in the history of professional football had thrown more passing yards than he did. He signed a $262 million deal, and last season he got a depleted roster to 11 wins, throwing behind an offensive line that was held together with athletic tape. Rashawn Slater tore his patellar tendon on August 3rd and never played a single snap all year. Joe Walt only lasted a few games before he went out too. So the 2 best pass protectors on the roster, the 2 guys who this entire building had been constructed around, gave him a combined 6 games, and this dude still won 11. I want that on the record before I take the next few minutes to take a blowtorch to his resume, because the resume has a hole in it, and the hole is enormous. 15. That's how many combined points the Los Angeles Chargers scored in their last 2 playoff games combined. Not per game, I'm talking about the culmination of 2 entire seasons worth of effort. All that blood and sweat and all those tears Herbert and the Chargers shed over those 2 years to make the playoffs, only to get 15 total points combined out of your perennial top 5 quarterback. I mean, let's be real, there's some kickers who get more than that in a single game. Yet Herbert has started 3 different playoff games and lost all 3 of them, and each one somehow managed to be more embarrassing than the one before it. Pulling that off shouldn't even be possible. I mean, these are some of the most Mickey Mouse cartoonish losses I've ever seen. And look, I know some of you guys are already typing, bro, the offensive line was a disaster, the receivers couldn't get open, Greg Roman was calling plays like he was trying to burn out the clock in the first quarter. And look, you're right, all of that is completely correct. Every single one of those things is true, and I'm gonna spend time on each of them. But stay with me because there's a specific reason I'm bringing that up. Every single excuse on that list has an expiration date that's already been printed, and I'm going to explain that later. So let's go ahead and dissect these pro-Herbert arguments, shall we? And then we'll get to the truth about what the hell is going on with him. January 2023 wildcard round, Justin Herbert's first ever playoff game. And for 25 minutes, it was the coronation everybody had been waiting to see since his days back at Oregon. To start the game, Trevor Lawrence shot steaming hot red diarrhea straight down his legs. He had 4 picks in the first half. The Chargers were up 27-0 on Duval. But you guys already know how this ends. Somehow, someway, the Chargers lost 31-30. It ties the 3rd largest choke job in terms of points given up in NFL postseason history. Herbert's stats look alright on paper, I guess, 25 for 43, 273 yards and a touchdown. But that's actually the problem. Just being alright isn't good enough in the postseason. That's why we put so much weight and emphasis on the postseason. Herbert was just kind of there for the entire collapse. He had so many chances, but the offense scored 3 points in an entire half. Over 30 minutes with a 27-point cushion, and that's all he could muster. Like, sure, yeah, the defense should have shut the door, I get all of that. But Buddy kept handing the ball back to the Jags over and over again because he couldn't sustain drives. Good quarterbacks have bad halves. Everybody has bad halves. But the truly great quarterbacks always have at least one drive in those 30 minutes where they just grab the game by the throat and just end it. Herbert never had that drive. He never had that takeover moment. And from there, things just fell apart. Next season, they wound up going 5-12 and Brandon Staley got fired, painting him as yet another scapegoat in Herbert's career. So Los Angeles went out and hired the biggest name they could to fix this problem, which brings us to the next disaster. January 2025 was Jim Harbaugh's first season with the Chargers. They got 11 wins and they were everybody's trendy pick to do some damage. And the Chargers had just scored an NFL best 108 points on its final 3 games of the regular season, and it flew into Houston looking like one of the most dangerous 5 seeds in a decade. I mean, their running game was pretty stout, they had a top flight defense and a quarterback who they claimed was battle tested and ready to get that playoff monkey off his back. Herbert proceeded to throw 4 putrid interceptions. Now, as a professional Herbert skeptic, I sort of knew this was coming. I knew something bad was going to happen. I'd seen him time and time again crap the bed and was expecting some sort of choke job. But that level of collapse was something I never saw coming. I mean, the dude had thrown 3 picks all season long headed into that game. That's among the lowest amount of interceptions you're going to see for a top flight quarterback ever. I knew it was unsustainable, but bro. He lands at RNG Stadium and throws more picks in a single game than he had in an entire season. I mean, at this point it's comical. It's Mickey Mouse like I said. It's just cartoonish. It's like a Dr. Doofenshmirtz level of defeat. Every single thing came crashing down all at once. Bro went 14 of 32 for 242 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 picks, and lost by 20 points, 32-12. The worst passing performance of his life delivered in the biggest game of his life. The game that was supposed to right the ship made it sink even further into the depths of despair, and Jim Harbaugh spent the next 12 months telling everybody who'd listened that he was going to fix this problem. He went on to Pat McAfee and the herd and glazed Herbert up and down every chance he could get. He was truly trying to build up the confidence in his young quarterback in order to fix this playoff demon around his neck. But he didn't fix it. Not even a little bit. And January 11th, 2026 in Foxboro is full proof of that. Sure, the Chargers were injured, but Herbert got them to 11 wins. The roster was at least decent enough to get that, and they were going up against a Pats team that had one of the lightest schedules in a decade. There was real belief around this Chargers team going into the game. There was belief that their elite defense could confuse Drake May, and if Herbert could just take care of the ball, they'd end up winning. They scored 3 points. Herbert goes 19 of 31 for 159 yards, no touchdowns, 6 sacks, and a lost fumble. And LA finished the game with a total of 207 yards, which is the type of number you'd expect from a third-string quarterback in a blizzard, not from a guy who's supposedly a top 5 passer. And the thing that really stings if you root for this team and this guy is that he got thoroughly outplayed by Drake May, a quarterback 4 years younger in his second full season as a starter in a defensive slugfest, and Drake May, by all accounts, was the better man on the field. To his credit, Herbert stood at the podium after the game and said he didn't play well. He acknowledged the fact that he didn't make any plays, and when it mattered most, he put up nothing. But that's the lasting image we have in our heads of Herbert, and it's not going to change anytime soon. Which brings me to the man hired specifically to prevent this. When Jim Harbaugh first took the job, he said that his first priority was protecting Justin Herbert. That was his entire pitch. That was the entire reason that a national championship head coach would leave Ann Arbor for a franchise that had been inventing new ways to lose since the Eisenhower administration. He had a clear vision about what the team could end up being. But 2 seasons later, Herbert has been sacked into oblivion twice, and the postseason record is now 0-3. Harbaugh took over a 5-12 roster and won 11 games in year 1, which almost nobody manages to do. But that one specific promise, the one thing that he named out loud on day 1, has gotten worse every single year. And a few days after that Foxboro loss, he admitted it in the loudest way a head coach possibly can. He fired Greg Roman. He also fired his offensive line coach that same afternoon. Greg Roman had been with the Harbaugh brothers for forever. It's a relationship going back over a decade to San Francisco, and Jim torched it 72 hours after the season ended. You don't do that to an old friend over one bad Sunday. You do that when you've looked at 15 points across 2 different postseasons and concluded that you have to take drastic measures to fix it. But I saved this next part for the back half of the video on purpose because everything up to this point you can argue with me about. You can blame Brandon Staley, you can point the finger at Greg Roman, you can chalk up all of this stuff to an offensive line that sucks, and skill position players that can't stay healthy. But this next one is where every defense of Justin Herbert falls apart in your hands. Last season, the number 1 threat, the wall standing between Herbert and the Super Bowl, died. That's because the Chargers killed the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm not even exaggerating. In week 15, the Chargers beat up Patrick Mahomes and tore his ACL and LCL in the same knee. Kansas City went on to finish 6-11 and missed the entire postseason for the first time in Mahomes' career. Now, the single greatest obstacle in Herbert's life, the guy who personally stood between him and every division title over the last 6 years, collapses in December before the playoffs even start. Yet the Chargers finished 11-6 in second place, while Denver went on to go 14-3. They took the division, earned the number 1 seed, and played in the AFC Championship game, where if their QB wasn't out for, they might have won. So they slayed the dragon, but then somebody else took the throne. That's the Chargers' 2025 season in a nutshell. It's honestly worse than just saying he couldn't beat Mahomes. He didn't even have to beat Mahomes. Mahomes was in a knee brace on the couch watching the playoffs on television, and yet the Chargers still finished behind Denver and then went on to lose to New England, scoring only 3 points. So why the hell can't he get it done? Why can't he even sniff a postseason win without Mahomes there? The Chargers think they know the answer because in January they hired Mike McDaniel. Miami fired him in January after 4 seasons, and LA signed him in under 3 weeks, beating out the Falcons, Ravens, Browns, Raiders, and Titans, who all wanted him as their head coach. This is the guy who took Tua, the pick made 1 slot before Herbert in the draft, and turned him into a Pro Bowler. And the Dolphins' offense instantly went to first in the league. He's by far the best offensive mind this franchise has seen in over 20 years. And the first thing he said to reporters when he got this job was that he wanted to take Justin Herbert up to the next level in his career, which is one hell of a thing to say out loud about a guy who's 28 years old in his second contract and is widely considered to be top 5. But with this hire, every single excuse you could have written for Herbert has all been written off. That's what makes this upcoming season different. For 6 seasons, the Chargers have had a lot of stuff you could point to as excuses for why Herbert couldn't get it done. You could say bad line, bad scheme, bad coaching, bad luck, bad timing, bad receivers, bad backs, all that. And that every single playoff loss could be summed up to that stuff. But now everything else should be solved. He's gonna have elite protection, a real play caller, a head coach that everyone loves, and the division has 3 quarterbacks that are uncertain. Bo Nix is coming off a broken foot, Mahomes is coming off a shattered knee, and Fernando Mendoza is a rookie. If Herbert goes on to win a playoff game, every single word in this video will evaporate. But if this franchise hands him the best offensive coach he's ever had, a healthy line, and an AFC West with no Kansas City hangover, and then he walks into January again and puts up another stinker, and we'll have no choice but to say Justin Herbert is a soft lover boy who shrinks in the biggest moments.